Welcome back to the Ponca City Monthly podcast. I'm your host, Andy, and this week has been a trying week. I hate daylight savings with a passion. I think that in the world of daylight savings, you're divided into two camps. You're either a fallback or a spring forward person, and what can I say? I like it cold and dark. So this week has been very trying for me, but it is what it is. So I hope that you're faring better. I hope that your allergies have not killed you yet. But hey, we have a special guest with us. It's our editor-in-chief, Kelsey Wagner. Kelsey, how are you doing today?
I'm great, and I love daylight savings time.
I know you do.
My husband and I count down the days until it gets here.
I get the idea of wanting it to be more daylight and summery and fun, and I get all that, but I absolutely hate to sweat, and I hate hot, and I hate losing an hour.
Yeah.
It throws off my entire schedule.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, and I'm like a wake up and watch the sunrise, and so sunrise watching at 6:50 is way more doable than 5:30. So that's one of the reasons I love it, but my husband just loves the sunshine. So, I wish they would make daylight savings time permanent, because there's a lot of people that want to get rid of the time change, because everyone hates the time change. I mean, I think we can all kind of agree on that. But.
Yeah, the time. Yeah. But I was reading something that, they were saying that if you were to do that, then there are some places that it would be like dark until like 9 a.m.
I know, it's true. I don't have a policy fix for that, so.
And the general consensus is, oh well for those people.
I'm sorry.
I agree that I think that it would be better. But to your point, you are getting up at 5:30 a.m.
True, yeah.
Even though it says it's 6:30, it's really, that for me is what hurts. That's what hurts me in the morning.
Yeah.
I woke up Sunday morning, thought it's my normal time to wake up, looked up and saw it was almost like 8 a.m. And I was like, what? And then I was like, stupid daylight savings time.
I don't know who invented it, but it's like, why did we even why are we messing with the time? My dog is so confused for 6 months. So.
Yeah. No, my dog is not. She just demands her dinner at the same time.
Oh, okay. You just changed the time for the dog. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have I have a big giant dog who, when she wants her dinner, demands it and gets it because she is relentless. And I'm sure we could train that out of her, but it's her character.
Yeah. Ginger gets her dinner at 5:30 every day. So whenever it's the time change, we have to kind of slowly, gradually get back to that 5:30. So she's on a routine.
So do you immediately transition to like this time frame and you're like raring to go?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, just right off the bat. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yesterday it was one of those where it was like, wow, it's 2:00.
Yeah.
And
right.
Yeah, it throws my week off completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
Well, they say that there are more traffic accidents. There are more just all the craziness that happens because of the time change. Like that one metric, I think, is enough evidence to say, hey, let's get rid of it. Let's do something different. But
yeah. I agree completely. But I also, and this is one of those topics that I always say that you learn more about as you get older. Mm-hmm. Like you don't realize it, but they've been talking about stopping this since I was a child.
Oh, I know. And there are some states that have done that. And I'm like, come on, Oklahoma, get it together.
And every year, like around this time, you're going to get just bombarded with news feeds about they're going to stop this.
Right.
And then next week, nobody is going to talk about this at all.
That's true. We just move on.
We just move on. Nobody does anything. And then next year at this time, it's going to be on it. And that's what frustrates me about it.
Yeah, very true.
All right. Well, last week we mentioned that Adam was here because we kind of just had a schedule mishap and we didn't get to do that. So we're here now. We're going to talk about the issue that's out on the newsstands, our March. It's a big issue.
It's a big issue. And I just want to say this cover is one of my favorites. This is kind of a joint combination efforts of you and I. So we both kind of worked on the cover. It came out beautiful, and we really wanted to just highlight that 72 months of Ponca City Monthly. Does it feel like it's been 72 months for you? I mean, and you've been in almost since the beginning. You weren't in that very first year, but you got in right at the beginning at the second year. So a lot of issues.
A lot of stuff. That was a fun, like I said, we kind of just collabed on that. You gave it the color or the feel. And then I always just call what I call Andy-sized.
Well, and I thought it was funny because you had said something about you. I told you what my idea was, and you said, Kelsey, I think we tried that before, and it didn't work out. Right. And I was trying to think back, and what I realized is I think we did, but I didn't have enough covers, and so I think it was too horizontal or something. And so it thankfully worked out where we had enough covers to really fill out the whole page.
Yeah, so it's a fun thing, and it's very exciting. 6 years. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it feels like just yesterday we started the magazine, and then every year Robin and I kind of look at each other like, has it been a year already? And we look at you and you're like, we're all still here. So we're all still doing it. And I don't know. I think it's such an interesting concept that went over way better than I ever could have expected. And, as long as people still love it and they keep reading it, we're going to keep making it. So,
yeah. And it's a great, I always say that it's one of the great, tourist attractions, because if you search the web, we're going to come up because we have all these great stories about stuff that's going on around town. Stuff that I think that we get the opportunity as a magazine to tell more in-depth stories than what the paper does. So I think that's kind of fun. The paper is busy with the news. And so we get to come in behind and tell the little stories that and that sort of make our town
and the fun, happy stories. We get to tell those human interest stories, and we'll get into some of the stories in here. But those things that maybe aren't quote unquote newsworthy, they're not flashy in your face. But when you dig into them, there's a lot going on. Right.
Yeah. Or a situation where the news covers it, but they have limited space, whereas we have pages.
We have pages to fill.
Yeah, we have pages that we can fill up. Let's talk about the retired Clayton Johnson.
Yeah,
that's a story that kind of has like a circle moment with us, right?
It does, yeah. So Clayton Johnson, and I think for a lot of people in Ponca City, he's very well known just because he grew up here, he graduated here. He was the police chief in Ponca City for 20 years before being appointed by President Obama and then reappointed by President who would have been Trump, and then reappointed again by President Biden. But he just retired. He served as the U.S. Marshal over in the Southern District in Tulsa for 15 or 16 years. And so he just retired. He was one of the longest serving marshals in Oklahoma history. So it's really abnormal to serve that long as a U.S. Marshal. So he is back. He is back in Ponca City. His retirement date was January 31st, and so I don't know what he's going to do. So in the picture, I thought it was so cute. He had his feet up on the desk, kind of all laid back. But what this article is about is he is going to be the featured speaker in a fundraiser coming up for the Ponca City High School Hall of Fame alumni.
Nice. They always bring in such great, fun people for the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that such a great alumni association, and when you realize that so many people came from Ponca City, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I don't remember what exactly it said, but it said something about like mostly true police stories is what he's going to be telling. So he's a funny guy.
That's always how that's how you get around the legalities of things. The mostly true, and the mostly true is the fun part of it, right?
Exactly. You got to embellish a little bit.
So St. Mary's Catholic School is celebrating 125 years.
I love this. We've had several churches over in the past year or two that we've had a 100th anniversary or 125. And I think that just speaks to, Ponca City has a lot of different organizations that have been serving the community continuously for a really, really long time. And St. Mary's Catholic School and Church is one of those organizations. They do a ton of work in Ponca City with philanthropy, but the school is one of the cornerstones. They're one of our private schools that we have in Ponca City. So They had a big event at the mansion, and there's some pictures in there that show all the fancy stuff that they did.
Yeah, I liked how they projected the logo on the side of the mansion. It looks really cool. When I first saw that picture, I was like, oh, that logo looks a little fuzzy. And then I realized what it was. So.
Yeah, and I'm not a member of the Catholic Church. I have some friends that go there. But Catholic churches are known for having these beautiful, huge, ornate churches. And Ponca City Catholic Church is no exception. It's gorgeous. And so it makes sense that they would do it up big. I feel like that's kind of their style. So
yeah, they have the beautiful organ over there.
Yes, they do. We did a story on them.
Yeah. So speaking of established organizations that's been around quite a bit, we another story was on the Child Development Center.
Yeah.
Established in 1967.
Yes. Yeah.
So they've been around quite a bit.
They have. And this was, it was funny. We had scheduled this article to go out because we have to schedule months in advance. And then all of a sudden, like all this daycare stuff started coming up with Oklahoma State funding, and there's just a lot going on. I hate to say for the negative. We had 2 daycare centers, private daycare centers in Ponca City closed last month because of budget cuts. And so this article ended up being, way more just time conscious than I even had originally planned. But thankfully for us, the Child Development Center, it's a nonprofit, so it's a little bit different than privately funded. It functions essentially the same. They still get state funding, but they have some flexibility where the private nonprofits don't have just because they're a nonprofit. And so the Child Development Center, they just recently moved into this school that was donated by Ponca City Public Schools. It's given them a lot of room to grow. And so this really just tells that story and talks about kind of where they're at. And so I'm so glad we have them because with the closing of these 2 private daycare centers, which they did everything they could. I know both of the owners of those. They tried as best they can, and until our state kind of gets that funding situation figured out, I think we're going to keep seeing private daycare centers close until they can get the support they need. And in the meantime, we have to do whatever we can as a community to continue to pour into daycare centers and like the Child Development Center, because that's all we have.
Sure.
And moms and dads that need childcare, if they don't have access to that, they can't go to work, they can't go to school, they can't do all these things that we need to do to grow as a community. So it's a pretty important deal.
Next week we have Mary Beth from who is the executive director of the Child Development Center. She's going to come in and talk to us a little to expand on some of the things.
I'm sure she'll have all kinds of cool information.
One of the things that we talked about was that in 1967 they were a sliding scale. Even back then, do you know if that was like a normal thing? We discussed that, and I don't know that we ever came to the conclusion. Okay,
and that is one of the benefits of them being a nonprofit is that they get funding through the United Way to be able to offer that sliding scale. And so a lot of these, private daycare centers, they may be able to offer some scholarships and things like that, but it's very limited. Whereas the Child Development Center, because they get that funding, they're able to offer childcare to people who. There's kind of a gap between if you qualify for state benefits or you don't qualify for state benefits. They call it like the benefits cliff. And so if you are making enough money that you don't qualify for that, but you have 3 or 4 kids, that sliding scale could be the make or break deal for you to be able to afford childcare. So it's really, really nice that they're able to do that. And
some of that is like I said, some of the stuff that we discuss next week. Looking forward to that. So great article. You want to talk about the partnerships that Kat Long wrote about? Yeah, so Kat has done a series of articles, and it's funny because she was our resident gardening person, and so she's a great writer, and so I'm glad to have her back in the magazine a little bit. But she's really been focusing on economic development, what she does for PCDA, and this article, it talked about all the different partnerships that PCDA has in order to make some of these projects and these businesses happen. And I think it highlights things that we don't see kind of behind the scenes. And she really walks you through all the different ways that they partner. And if you think about, Ponca City Development Authority, the City of Ponca City, Pioneer Technology Center. We have all these resources in Ponca City. And if you don't have those partnerships, then everybody's operating in their own little silo. And while that still does happen, I have to brag, Kat Long, she is one of the best
partnership kind of facilitators, because she'll tell people all the time, oh, you need to call Pioneer Tech, you need to call this person. And so that's just how her brain works.
I always like, because when you talk to Kat, she has 800,000 ideas, and she's going to bombard you with them all, and your job is to pick one and go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. She has all the tabs open, but that's also like, she's always connecting the dots. She's like, I'll talk to her and she'll say, I think I had an article on a grant for this through that, and then she'll point me in that direction.
Yeah, like I said, that's what's so fun about her, is that you just walk up and you're like, I've decided I want to turn pavement into something. And then she'll be like, oh, here's like 25 resources you need to know about.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter what the topic is. She always has that. So way to go, Kat.
Yeah, way to go, Kat. We love you.
As a matter of fact, we, in next week's podcast with Mary Beth, we talk about using the business center at Pioneer Tech, because they helped them rebrand and sort of grow their business a little bit. So
absolutely.
A lot of great resources here. Let's see, that's all about us. Cool stuff over 6 years, long years. Those were kind of our main stories. Again, last week we sort of met with Adam. He was in, and we talked about the strategic plan that they have going on right now. With that, do you want to talk any about that?
Luckily for this one, this is not my circus. I mean, it's Adam's, but I do plan to participate in it. And I know that he has big plans, as he said on the podcast, to really get a wide swath of people involved. So I'll just connect this to, and I talked about this previously on a podcast. So the school is doing their visioning right now. The city of Ponca City is kicking off our visioning in the fall. And so really, I think it's just such a great time in the community. Everybody is really thinking about the future. We're thinking about the next 20 or 30 years. And so just get involved, because it always happens that someone says, oh, when we come up with our big bond projects, or the school comes up with their big bond projects, people will be like, well, I didn't have a say in this. Well, you had an opportunity. And if you don't take that, I mean, it's on you. So now is the time to get involved. They want everybody's opinion, and we'll want everybody's opinion in the fall. And everybody has opinions, right?
They do. Yes. You just pop on Facebook anytime.
Yes, they do.
Something that I think is very strange to me is that if you say we're planning for 10 years, that sounds like, oh, cool, rock and roll. But if you say we're planning for 2036, that just sounds so crazy to me. I don't know. It does. I know. Or 2046 if you're planning for 20.
And I don't remember the exact quote, but there's a quote that talks about, great, I think they say great men, but I'll say, great people are the ones that plant trees in the shade that they know they will never sit. And so, I mean, I think that is the mark of a great leader. And it does feel weird to say, okay, well, we're going to start planning some stuff with Lake Ponca that may not be, fully realized for 20 years, but somebody has to plan ahead. So that's the way that government operates, and schools and everything. They're just too big to, operate on a small timeline.
Sure. That was one of the things that, Adam and I kind of talked about, was that you and I had the conversation that these massive projects takes years to just move inches, forward. And, so sometimes it just takes a while.
And part of that is that you have to reach some sort of consensus. And that is what we have built our democracy on. And this is why we have governing bodies. And sometimes I think it's funny, and I'll get into my mayor's minute in a little bit. A lot of people, I think they don't really, that they think, oh, the mayor's in charge or the city commission's in charge. And I'm like, we're just regular citizens and we are in charge. And it's interesting because we're the staff listen to us, the citizens. I don't have the degrees that our city manager or our staff. So I really rely on the staff to tell me their expertise. But at the end of the day, the citizens are in charge. And that's the beauty of it. But that's why it takes so long, because you have to reach a consensus of all the citizens, and it's just messy. So
one note on the Adams story, on the if you want to participate in that, we have links in the magazine. There is a QR code that you can participate. We also have it on his podcast from last week. I will say that I believe the end date for that is Friday. They may extend it a little further, but I believe that he mentioned in the podcast that Friday was the last day for that.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah. So if you want to participate, you want your voice heard.
Yeah.
I understand it's, I can't remember the word that he used, think tank.
Thought.
There
something.
you go. Yeah.
It was, yeah.
And what that is that as you share your idea of how you think the school should be shaped, other people
thought
can
mapping or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like
that other people can vote up and down your
Yes.
thoughts, and so that they can get a good feel for how people in the community. So they're looking for all kinds of input.
Yep.
So enjoy that.
Check that out.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready to talk mayor stuff?
Yes, I am. And I always have something interesting to talk about, but this time it's, I think, a little extra interesting. So I announced 2 or 3 weeks ago that I put together a mayor's downtown revitalization task force. And so to give the citizens kind of a little insight on what that is, what that's going to do, and how that's going to work. So we had our town hall back in May 2025. That was couple months after I got elected. And so we had all these great ideas. We had a ton of participation. And the question that I kept being asked was, well, what happens now? What came from that? And again, everything takes time. So we've been working behind the scenes and putting things together. Basically, what I'm basing this on, and I'm going to elaborate just a little bit because I think it's interesting and important. I'm basing this task force on something that I go to every year called the Oklahoma Academy Town Hall. And basically, it's a bipartisan think tank where we get a diverse group of people. They're given a research brief. So basically, everyone gets the same information about policy that's been enacted in the past and all the information and the data. And then we have a set of questions that we walk through. And you really take a lot of time. The Oklahoma Academy Town Hall's 3 days. And we dissect these issues down to like the very minutia. And so I'm basically doing that only in a monthly meeting format. And so I've got 9 downtown building owners. And that was an important part of this because I wanted these downtown building owners to be the ones going through these policy recommendations and making the recommendations ultimately to the Planning Commission and the City Commission. So I've given them a research brief. It has information about policy that has been enacted all over the United States to combat vacant buildings and absent, building owners who are neglecting their buildings, and zoning codes and, bid districts and all these different things that relate to our downtown. And so basically what we have is, this is what the citizens said they wanted in the town hall. Now what do we do? And so we'll be meeting every month, and really these meetings are going to be long. They're going to be, because when you talk about some of these things, they're very complicated and there's a lot of moving pieces. And that's what I think is frustrating sometimes is you want to get something done, but you can't reach consensus, right?
Sure.
So my hope is that with this task force, we're able to take an extremely complicated topic, break it down with a group of people that are all stakeholders, and to present that and to get something done, that everybody's happy with, that we've really thought through every aspect. And so this is the first kind of task force I've put together as mayor. I think it's interesting, and I hope it goes well. I think it will. But it'll be interesting to see, because you get a group of people together. You never know what's going to happen, right?
Right.
Everybody has their different viewpoints, but that's also what's going to make it, I think, a stronger argument. Because if we can all reach consensus, then I think it'll be a really good thing.
Herding cats.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that's really cool. So in your, and I kind of asked Adam this last week, and I'll ask you the same thing. Sort of as you were here in the preliminary phases, is there anything standing out to you that
Well, I don't want to get too much into the weeds of what I hope will happen, because I do have ideas, and I'm presenting those ideas to that committee. But I don't want them to just take my ideas and say, rubber stamp it.
Sure.
I want them to bring their own ideas to it. I want them to take my ideas, and I want to really put these ideas to the test and say what's going to work, what's not going to work, because our community is different than every community has similarities, but they all have their own nuance. And that's the beauty of self-governance, is we're able to say, this is what we want. This is what makes us actually a little bit different. And so we're going to put our own spin on it. And so I'm trying to give them as much information so that we're all prepared, but then I don't want to give them prerequisites of like, this is what we're going to do and this is what you have to do.
Okay. So there was nothing like, because these are coming out of the town hall things, right? Or is this the setup for the town? So out of the town hall thing, what were some of the...
Yeah, so that's actually available. You can go to kelseyformayor.com, and I put together I think it was a 2 or 3 page brief of everything that was discussed in the town hall. And so, yes, that's a great question, because basically we're taking that, 3 pages of this is what the community wants. And there were really 5 goals. It was like, address long-term chronic vacancy.
Okay.
There were, how do you support, because you don't want to just over-regulate. Like, you don't want to just tell people this is what you have to do. You have to provide resources and support. And so that, I think, is the public-private partnership part of this. That's how do we get that balance where we are holding building owners to account that are neglecting their properties, but we're offering support and resources for those building owners that want to do something, but maybe lacking those resources. Yeah. And so it's definitely, like I said, it's complicated, but I, for one, don't shy away from complex or hard things. I mean, hey, we did a magazine, right? Like, I'm like, okay, how do we do this? And during COVID, yeah, good point. But I just feel like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Sure. And so if no one is willing to kind of say, okay, we have to tackle this, then the problem never gets tackled. So this is my one bite at a time. We're just going to tackle it and see what happens.
Very cool. Yeah, I guess the 5 things that are on your website are probably what I was... That was the question I was trying to ask.
We do have 5 goals that we're going to try to conquer. So
you do sort of have... You're going in with kind of a wire frame, as we like to say.
Yep.
And then you're going to kind of flesh that out from there. So that's very exciting. Yep. And this is one of those like 20-year project pieces, right? Or is this something that will happen?
Actually, no. I would say that this is going to be... So we have 5 goals. We're going to ask a bunch of questions. And so essentially we're hoping early to midsummer, this task force will have a final report that will have policy answers to those questions. And so that'll be available for everybody to read. And then once that final report is presented and approved, it will go to city staff for review, and then that will be presented to the planning commission and the city commission. And so, my hope is by fall, we have kind of what I would consider an omnibus policy package proposal that will be approved and will provide, maybe some grant funding, maybe some, ordinances that will help to put things in place so we make sure that downtown Ponca City has everything it needs for a vibrant future.
Very cool.
Now, that will take 20 years. Yeah. What happens in the next 20 years, I don't know. But we'll do our part.
That's the seed planting part. You plant it, and sometimes you plant things, they don't grow. Sometimes they do.
Yep,
That's the joy of gardening.
It is. And then you just wait.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Like I said, next week, we've got Mary Beth from the Child Development Center to tell you all about that. So please join us then. And, I always forget to say this, but if you have not subscribed to our website, go ahead and do that. Yeah. We get all kinds of, in addition to the podcast, we also have news stories that we put out. And Kelsey is very good about telling you about things going on at the theater, because that's always fun. Mm-hmm. So do all those things, and we'll see you back here next week. Thank you.